Hi, this is Human Essence, and on this morning's commuting video, I'm going to be speaking once again about Wendy Adelson, since we have a gap until there's the next case management hearing in the trial of Donna Adelson. So, in this video, I'm going to be talking about something that Wendy said when she was being questioned by DeCoste in the second trial of Catherine McVanawa. And during that trial, she had mentioned that before Dan Markel had died, the relationship between the two of them was pretty copacetic. And I'm going to have a little discussion about that. So we see that one of the issues between Dan and Wendy that was in the courts at that time was Dan complaining that Wendy didn't allow him to Skype with the children when she was there, when the children were with her, and that the right of first refusal to be with the children when she needed someone to watch them was not being adhered to. So if we look at some of the evidence that we've gotten from the trial, we hear that Jeff Lacasse was watching the children while Wendy was giving presentations at the Florida State University. So if Jeff was watching the children, that meant that nobody offered Dan the opportunity to watch the children during that time. And it wasn't even Wendy's parents. The people who were watching the children was a fairly new boyfriend. Let's face it, the whole relationship was only 10 months. And that was the person who was watching her children when her parents weren't up there. So when the new boyfriend was watching the children rather than offering for the father to watch the children. The second thing that happened shortly before the murder has to do with the Skyping. So when questioned about the Skyping, Wendy on this hand tries to be very relatable and so it's hard to get toddlers to sit down to Skype. And that certainly sounds like it's true. But when you're sitting down to Skype and you find on the other end is your ex-husband with a new girlfriend in the room with him or laying down with him, Skyping, it would be pretty hard for most people to feel copacetic about that. In other words, I've got to stop what I'm doing. Have him Skype with the children when they're with me, and there's his girlfriend. So we have these significant others involved in the relationships of the parents to their own children. And since the children are going back and forth, it would be unlikely that she would be as copacetic as she seems to be. And we also hear that at the time that Amy was there, that Wendy was a bit nervous and that her father came with her to exchange the children. And I think that had to do with Amy being there. So, copacetic, I think most people would be angry. Then again, Wendy does not express any of that, does not own up to having normal reactions. So it's always, as I've said before, my family was mad at him. It would be not a terrible thing to say, yeah, I was really annoyed to be Skyping with the girlfriend there. Not only did I have to interrupt my day, get my kids to sit down, but then she was there. That would be annoying for many people, but she does not own up to ordinary feelings. She's, as I said in my other video, she's above that. The other thing that I notice that is a theme here is this idea that adult people are not making their own choices. So when we hear Wendy we hear on the podcast where she reads her book, she says she thought she could beat the system. Very ironic language, but she thought she could beat the system and be married to somebody that she didn't love, that love would grow. Okay, who is forcing her as an adult person to marry somebody she doesn't love? By the same token, I have to say, in the podcast, we hear Robert talking about breaking up with his girlfriend, marrying somebody else, and then eventually marrying his girlfriend, and, saying that was due to pressure from his mother. He's an adult man who was a resident. He's responsible for having made those choices, just like Wendy is responsible for having married somebody and for having talked about him to everybody and sundry so that they would think badly of them, or at least to 12 people. Then again, maybe not. Celebrate uncertainty.